Our laws as it pertains to substances are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want to help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
Hey everybody, welcome. Sorry we are a couple of minutes late here, but here we are, and I understand we've been going back and forth on the timing for today. Thank you for being patient. We are also out on Clubhouse. We can find, we'll get you up to the podium for calls there. We are at the rest of the week, Wednesday through Friday, we will be at 3 o'clock, and we've got a whole bunch of guests coming up. We have Matt Ridley coming in here, his book, The Search for the Origins of COVID-19. We're talking about that. We have Evie Pompouris coming next week. We have Greg Grunberg coming, or is Evie coming this week? I'm getting confused, all the different
next week
guests we have coming in. And
we had to move parts because you had a thing to do.
Yes, but then a lot of things going on. And tomorrow, do you remember who the guest is? You can look. I don't hear you.
Yeah, it was like on the schedule. Caleb.
Caleb is not on my schedule.
The schedule has changed a couple of times, so
right.
I'm actually
Yes,
not 100%
Wednesday.
sure.
Okay.
I don't think we have anybody tomorrow,
so
or
tomorrow's
Thursday.
The Wednesday. All right, Friday we have Matt Ridley. I just saw pop up. All right, I'm going to find it for you.
I know it's not our Google calendar's being weird, but
All right,
Caleb, you sent me the information. Don't you have it, or did it change since you emailed me?
I do. I think that it's Ridley. Ridley is tomorrow. Greg is next week, not Thursday.
All right, so there you go. Anyway, stand by. We'll try to post.
Yeah,
keep
Ridley's
a lookout for
very organized.
Matt Ridley. I did a podcast with Matt Ridley, and it aired, and people were really hot that we should do another one.
But if we don't have a guest, we'll just do Ask Dr. Drew and make our callers happy.
All right, fair enough. We'll do that. But today, making me happy, we have Randy Grimes, former NFL center, who successful 10-year career with the Buccaneers. He began, as many did, taking prescription pills for pain appropriately, which escalated to the point where he was playing blacked out. And his addiction spanned a couple more decades after the original relationship with opiates began. He now is a motivational speaker and founder of Pro Athletes in Recovery. He is very successful in his recovery. He and his wife, Lydia, do interventions now and work on helping professional athletes, celebrities, business leaders, as well as everyone else who has addiction, which God knows we got a major problem that's gotten worse during COVID. His book is Off Center, released in February this year. It tells the story of his story, his war story. There it is, Off Center. And he and I are both part of the advisory committee for America for Recovery Now, I think is our official name now. Please welcome Randy Grimes. Randy, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it very much.
So the Kleinschmidt-Sullivan world has put us together. Art Kleinschmidt, right. Those of you that are familiar with my stream have seen me interview him a couple times. He was sort of second in command as drug czar a few years ago, and now is out setting up Recovery for America Now, and could not be happier to be a part of it, and could not be happier that you're there with me.
I know. Hey, we had a celebrity pickleball tournament last weekend in Delray Beach for my nonprofit, and Art and Katie came, and it was a great time. It was a unique event, that's for sure.
And let me make sure I got your nonprofit out there. Which one is that? I get confused. Everyone's working on
Pro
these
Athletes
things.
in Recovery.
Pro Athletes in Recovery, fantastic. And I guess we should start with the nature of the problem. I mean, I've been aware of this forever, that opioids and opiates have been prescribed excessively and being abused. And particularly, I would say, if I had to, where I saw it the most was NFL and wrestling. That was where people were getting really seriously strung out and staying on them for long periods of times, and the prescribing physician not really addressing these things. Is it still as bad now as it had been, say, in the early 2000s?
There's more accountability now than there ever has been. I'm proud of we've been advocating for that for years now through my nonprofit and different organizations I work with. So there is more accountability, but Doc, as long as guys put pressure on themselves to get back out there as quick as they can, as long as team owners and head coaches put pressure on the medical staff to get guys back out there, it's going to still go on. And I still deal with guys who've just recently left the league, and to some extent, they're still self-medicate and they stay out there on the field just like I did.
Yeah, it is a strange world. I years ago worked for the NFL on the mental health side, particularly, and they would kind of coyly say, "Well, make him better so he doesn't, he's not so violent, doesn't hurt anybody, but don't make him well." Don't really make him well. Just make it so he's not violent on the street. It was really an odd thing to work with, and I'm sure the same thing is true on the pain side. And it isn't just the patient. I mean, the patient you're right, is sort of duplicitous, but it's everybody around these guys that sort of wants them back, and they want to go back. And when you're an addict and you're not interested in you're an addict, you're not interested in dealing with it, and you're in pain, and you don't understand that the opioids are perpetuating the pain. That's a pretty hard cycle to break when there's so much secondary gain.
Well, and I was that guy willing to do whatever I had to stay out on the field, because as well as I do, once you get that reputation of always missing practice, always being on the injury report, always being back in the training room, being worked on by the doctors and team trainers, once you got that reputation, then you were never going to get away from it, and what was sure to be a short NFL career. So my solution to all that was to take a handful of pain pills and get out there. And I played back in an era, 80s, early 90s. I played in an era where we used to beat the heck out of each other all week long. A lot of the injuries we sustained every year was during practice. And of course, that mentality's changed a lot now with the collective bargaining agreements. They hardly ever practice hard, but back then we practiced hard, and I was not going to let somebody else get in my position, because if you know what the NFL stands for, and that's not for long. And I was determined to be out there every snap, and I justified it so easy too, because I wanted to be the best center that ever played the game. I wanted to be all pro. I wanted that next big contract. I wanted to feed my family. Those were ways that I justified what I was just calling a necessary evil.
Yeah, that's all so common and frankly not unreasonable, right? It's not like you were in some sort of delusional state. I mean, these are all realistic demands of the profession that you were in, that you had built your life around. It's very hard to undo those things.
The crazy part about it is that in the 8.5 years that this was probably going on, not once did anybody ever come up to me and say, Randy, why are you slurring your words? Or Randy, why are you nodding off in meetings? Or Randy, why are you late to practice every day? Or Randy, why are you the last to leave the building every night and pills are missing out of the drug safe? Nobody ever asked me those questions, because I was always playing good.
Yeah, I can't blame the coaches or the other players. I blame whoever was prescribing this. That's where my patience runs very thin. These days, I'm just wondering, did they ever use the medication Suboxone for these guys that have chronic pain, chronic injuries?
No, not back in the 80s and early 90s. It might have been around, but that's not what they used. I mean, we were using Percocets and Vicodins and Halcyon. You remember all those medications? Halcyon was the granddaddy of the benzos, and those were the kind of medications that were readily available. I mean, we had an open drug safe that was in the middle of our locker room, and if it ever was accidentally locked, then the combination to it was the jersey numbers of the 3 white guys that started on defense, and it never changed that whole decade. It never changed that whole decade. So, usually it was never locked. I mean, usually I could get it from the trainers. Usually I could get it from the team doctors. But if I didn't, I could just go get it myself out of the drug safe. And, that was the culture back then.
Wow.
I always wondered, like, when the players got hit so hard at the Super Bowl, how they would get injured and then they'd be able to just go back on the field. Was that because you were just able to get the narcotics to kill the pain? Or is it, I mean, to be able to play on it, obviously, is one thing, but when you get hurt, like, isn't that what it's for?
Well, I mean, a lot of these guys have that warrior mentality. They're going to get back out there and they're going to suck it up and keep playing. I mean, if you have the luxury of throwing some narcotics down on top of it, then that just makes it all the more better. But like I said earlier, nobody puts more pressure on a player to get back out there than he does himself.
Right. And what was your bottom? What happened that finally? It was as far as you could go.
Every bottom I had a trap door in it. I lost a really good friend that I played next to for many years. He was doing the same thing I was doing, and that was self-medicating the injuries he got while he played with the Bucs. And one morning he just didn't wake up, and that was in 2008. And spring and summer was 2009 was the perfect storm. And that's my daughter wouldn't let me come around my first grandchild because I wasn't fit to be around her new baby. My friend passing away, I was having seizure after seizure as a result of withdrawal from benzos. And, my wife couldn't watch me continue to kill myself. So that was what finally made me put up my hand.
Meaning your wife was saying, you do something about this or I'm out of here.
Pretty much. Yeah. She just couldn't sit by and watch it anymore. She had done everything that she could do.
Yeah. That I again, where were the physicians in this? To me, it's just, when my peers do such crazy, horrible practice of medicine, I can't, I was fighting this so hard back in those days. I was being told I was opiophobic and old fashioned and interested in people just suffering. And I was like, no, that Randy's seizing and he's going to stop breathing if he takes any more of that Halcyon with all that Percocet. That's what's going to happen here. Just happened to his buddy. Well, how long do you think it's going to be before that happens to him? Oh, calm down. Old fashioned. Oh my God.
Well,
that was the 90s.
And there wasn't a lot of there wasn't a lot of accountability back then. But then again, Doc, I've never blamed the Bucs or I've never blamed the NFL for my addiction. Yeah. I mean, I'm responsible, obviously, for everything I put in my mouth. But that's what I was willing to do to be the best. And like I said, I looked at it like it was a necessary evil instead of what it really was, and that was a full-blown addiction.
Right, and that's the last thing you want to look at when you have that. I mean, that's just the way the disease works. It will do anything to avoid you thinking about stopping using the drugs. It's anything, literally anything, until something breaks through.
Right.
And then what was your treatment like?
Treatment was, I'd had so many seizures and they were so concerned about bringing me in, nobody really wanted to take me because I was such a risk to whatever facility that was. But, I took a detox for a month, but during that month of detox, I had a knee replaced. I had the other knee worked on and I had some neck surgery. So I came in with a plan to have some surgeries and hopefully get me out of some of the pain issues that I was having. And, I did all that. And I detoxed for 2 weeks. I went off and had the surgery, the knee replaced, the other knee fixed, the neck surgery, came back, detoxed for another week and a half from the hospital meds. And then I went off for 60 more days and worked on those underlying issues that made Randy do what Randy did. And, Doc, it's amazing what all happened in that 60 days when I really dug down in there. And, I finally grieved the death of Randy Grimes, the football player. I can still remember my last coach. I had 5 head coaches in 10 years when I played there. And I can remember my last head coach, Sam Weish, putting his hand on my shoulder and telling me that my services wouldn't be needed there anymore. And, I can remember thinking, wow, that's how it ends. All the blood, sweat, and tears that I've left on football fields all over this country since 4th grade. And that's how it ends. And I remember just raking everything out of my locker into a black trash bag and walking out the back door. And Randy Grimes, the football player, didn't exist anymore. And that was just throwing gasoline on an already raging dumpster fire that was the addiction. And when I didn't have that uniform to put on anymore, that playbook to look at, or that itinerary to go by, I struggled for a long time. And, that was all part of that 20 plus years. But that loss of identity and self esteem and motivation and all that, it wasn't until that 60 days in treatment, of digging down and peeling back those layers of the onion, that I finally dealt with that. And that was real. That was a real deal. That was, I call it now transitional trauma, when I left the league, and I just struggled for so long when I didn't have that uniform anymore.
Yeah.
That sounds just as bad as coming off of opioids. Evie Soko from Zimbabwe wants to know what your opioid withdrawal symptoms were.
Oh, well, let me first say, before you get into it, I know it was a reasonable plan to get all those surgeries, but I know how the addict brain works. And your real plan was to get those frickin' hospital meds. That's the plan. And, oh, by the way, I'll fix everything so I don't have to pay. But in the meantime, I am getting those morphine infusions post-operatively, right?
No, there was a lot of accountability there with the hospital staff, and of course the staff at the treatment center. And that was actually the first time I ever took any kind of opiate correctly, as directed. And even that didn't last that long. So, that was, matter of fact, that was probably the last opiate I ever had. That was back in September of 2009.
And so I bring that up also for Evie's question, because he ameliorated some of that withdrawal by having anesthesia and having IV drugs, appropriate IV drugs post-operatively. And that sort of tapered him down a little bit from where he was. And it certainly would deal with some of the seizure issues around the benzodiazepines and all that as well. So yeah, the withdrawal syndrome, I'm sure, was sleeplessness, agitation, irritability, desperation. I'm sure you had all that good stuff. Anything else?
Well, and, I was so concerned about the benzo withdrawal. I always say that, opiates stole everything from me, but benzos are what nearly killed me. I mean, they were the devil. And that was the main concern that was the main concern. And, the insanity of this disease, I can remember being out driving all over town looking for more benzos, knowing that if I don't find them soon, I was going to have a seizure. And here I was driving around knowing that a seizure could happen at any second. That's the insanity of the disease.
Yep. And here's the kind of, for people that don't really understand addiction, the really pernicious part is not just that he was so desperate to do that, but that it made sense to him to do that. It seemed like a good idea, right? and that's the
only idea. Right.
We call it stinking thinking, which is that people with this illness, the thinking is the problem. So people that want to reason with addicts and alcohol, no. The reasoning, all that gets all distorted by the motivational disturbance. All the thinking is upside down. So it seems like the right thing to go out because A, I've got to play, and B, I'm going to have a seizure if I don't find those things, and the doctor won't give them to me, so I've got to find them. It's all pretty simple. So let's see. Somebody's saying, always seek uplifting stories to keep my positivity up on track. Yes, this is a good story, Sky. This is a good one. Randy is a good story. So did you get to sobriety in your first attempt? Oftentimes it takes 2 to 4 sort of treatment episodes or little slips here and there before people really get a year of sustained sobriety. Were you one of those folks?
Yeah, I was. I had gone to a couple other treatment centers around my hometown in Houston. And, for whatever reason, and I can't tell you why, Doc, but I just couldn't get it, and I don't know if it was the accountability or the structure or whatever when I got out, but it seemed like it was always, pretty much right away, the relapse was. And I can't even tell you what was so different about this last time, other than there was more accountability. There was more people surrounding me. There was more people that knew. There was more people that were watching to see what happened. There were all those factors. And when I pulled up to the treatment center that night, and this was September 22nd, 2009, somebody opened the car door from the outside. This is when I first got there. And somebody opened the car door from the outside, and I just fell out. And there was about another 30 feet before to get into the front door of the treatment center. And I remember crawling on all fours through that door. And, you know, nobody helped me. And I'm glad they didn't, because I needed to do that on my own. And, you know, that I kind of look at that as my greatest accomplishment in life, is crawling through the door that night. Because, you know, if I don't crawl through the door that night, then all the football stuff and all that was for nothing.
I totally, it almost, I get a little chills when I hear you say that, because it's not what people think it is. It's more than that. You had to do that. I bet you tear up yourself when you think about it.
Oh, all the time. And, you know, I remember hearing somebody say, you know, Randy, in order to get this, you've got to have the desperation of a drowning man. And, you know, that really summed it up for me. I knew that I was in for the fight of my life. And I think I'm a pretty tough guy. You know, I've been in a lot of battles and won most of them. You don't get to stay in the league for 10 years, but crawling through the door that night was the toughest thing I ever did, but the most rewarding too.
Right. If somebody had stepped in and made it easy or easier, or somebody else rescued you and pulled you through, that's not that experience. That's not what you needed to touch in that moment. I totally get it. That's when I know people are ready to get well, when they have those sorts of experiences. They get well after that. It's a moment of clarity. It's a
desperation, huh?
The gift of desperation, exactly right. And I'm sure you'd felt desperation before, you know, in your withdrawal and whatever, but this is different. Something about you were one with your desperation. You were, you know what I mean? You were participating in the desperation and doing something about it. And it was moving, and you were crawling in the right direction rather than, you know, just sitting in the desperation. I think that sort of sums it up. Yeah, it's an interesting thing.
I guess it's called surrender too. I finally surrendered, you know.
You run up that white flag. You know, you run up that white flag. Let me in. So people are asking what you were actually taking. They're curious about that. Do you remember sort of what your protocol was at your worst?
Oh yeah, as many Percocets or any kind of opiates I could get my hand on, and of course, well, I started with Halcyon, but Xanax, you know, replaced that when Halcyon became so hard to find. So yeah, it was any opiate I could get my hand on: Norcos, Lortabs, Lorcets, Percocets. You know, I wasn't prejudiced. I'll take anything.
Right. Well, I will tell you. Let me use my Karnak powers and say, you know, having dealt with a lot of patients with similar patterns, I'm going to say your pill consumption was probably around 50 pills a day, and your Xanax consumption was probably between 6 and 12 milligrams a day.
Whoa,
is that about right?
Well, you're pretty close on the pills. Probably 30, 45, you know, depending on what they were. You know, if it was Norcos or something weaker, you know, 50. 45 to 60. But if it was Perc 30s or something like that, But the Halcyon, it got pretty bad. You know, I was taking probably, you know, 10 of those a night, 10 bars, and that's what, 20
Xanabars.
20.
Yeah, 20. That's 20. Yeah, so 20 Xanabars. So that's thus the seizures. That's pretty easy to get. You can't take enough Xanax to stop those seizures. In other words, even if you were taking 23 times a day, you still would have had seizures.
Jeez.
So
and
he's
build
not
up
I know,
fast,
but
you know?
Yeah.
I know, but if I take one, I pass out.
And I want you to know that while this was all happening, my peers were fighting me, because at that period of history, the position of general medicine was pain is what the patient says it is, and pain control is what the patient says it is. And if Randy says it's under control at 35 pills a day, then that's what Randy gets, and he's in charge of this. It was an insane time. And of course, then because you're taking 35 or 50 Norco, first of all, the 50 Norco can cause deafness. Is your hearing been okay?
What?
He goes, what?
All right. So you're okay that way.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Well, that's what happened to Rush Limbaugh, right? He developed nerve deafness, because of the Vicodin. Happened a lot. I saw usually when people got over 50 pills a day was where I started seeing the deafness from the Vicodin and the Norco. And then you, of course, because you're having that, much like the Xanax causes chronic withdrawal, all those opiates cause chronic withdrawal, so you're not sleeping, you're anxious, and then you get the Xanax, and then whew, that goes up. Back in Florida, you were in Florida. In Florida in those days, you could go to a pain clinic and just tell them what you wanted. You just point at the wall and go, I want some of that, I want some of this. It was truly insane. When did you leave the NFL? When was that?
93.
Oh my God. Yeah. So that was all deeply, and so it literally was probably under the supervision of the physicians of your team that you had that open locker of meds, because there was a philosophy that pain control was whatever the patient wanted to do, period. Anything. And so, of course, they just put a pile of pills on. You decide. It's your thing. They called me opiophobic, Randy. I was an opiophobe. I somehow was fearful of opiates because I thought that was a bad idea that Randy should take 50 Vicodin a day. It's unbelievable. Anyway.
Well, and I think
you didn't have. Somebody said doctor shopping. Hang on a second, real quick. Doctor. Yeah, you didn't need to doctor shop. You didn't need to, especially in Florida. You didn't need to. They would just give you. Whatever you wanted.
Yeah, but after I left the team, after I left all those enablers and team doctors, team trainers, and teammates, then I had to go doctor shopping then. And I was back and forth between Texas and Florida. So and it was going on in Texas too. Probably not the big pill mills and the hillbilly highway that Florida had, but there was a lot of that going on in Texas too. So pills were readily available everywhere.
But you guys are, and I can tell in Randy and the way you're thinking about this, that these were sort of suspicious practitioners, that they were sort of somehow. No, they weren't. These people were doing what the Pain Medicine Society was telling them to do. This was a professional organization that had standards that if you didn't do it, if you didn't give Randy his pills and he complained, you could not only be guilty of malpractice, but have a criminal action against you for inadequate treatment of pain. That's what was going on then. I lived it. I'm telling you, there were cases in North Carolina and Florida and California where doctors got criminal action because they resisted giving all those pills. So, people wonder where this came from. It was on back then. And the pain management world thought they were on a holy quest to eliminate pain with opiates, which is a fool's errand. And now we have people on the street, we have the homeless, we have people, oh my God, how do you see the problem now that things are so far advanced from back in the quaint days when you just took fistfuls of pills? Now the fentanyl, the needles, it's really sad now.
Well, and I don't think we'll ever legislate our way out of it or arrest our way out of it, but I do think that we can maybe educate our way out of this. And the more we talk about it, the more we recover out loud, the more that we're out there proving to people that there's hope and there is recovery and that it works. I think the more that it tears down that stigma, because stigma is really what keeps people from raising their hands. That's what keeps families from reaching out and asking for help or looking for resources. It's that guilt and that shame that still surrounds this disease. And that's what blows my mind is that, I still deal with parents that bury their head in the sand and say, not my child, or if they don't acknowledge it, then it doesn't exist. And, we're losing an entire generation of kids right in front of our eyes, over 100,000 people a year. And the leading cause of death, 18 to 45, it's insane what's going on out there. And we've got to continue to educate.
Yeah, it's interesting. The stigma thing, I think people are a little off base with that. The stigma is always something felt by and complained about in the family. The addicts in their disease, I've never met a drug addict who claimed about being stigmatized, no matter how down and out they are. They just are interested in doing drugs. And that's it. They're not complaining about stigma. They're interested in finding that halcyon. They're interested in finding it. That's it. That's it. No stigma there. Now, later, as they're trying to talk about their recovery and stuff, they feel a certain amount of guilt and shame and stuff. Interestingly, a lot of the sources of the guilt and shame is the family itself. So family members, you might look at that. But the families are the ones that complain about the stigma because they're the ones that resist looking at it because of the stigma.
Right. And it still goes on out there. I mean, that's killing a lot of people, that attitude or that's what keeps people from raising their hand.
Yes, I'm afraid so. Let's see. Here's somebody saying, I have someone on methadone 60 and he's having heart palpitations. Can he move over to Suboxone? Kaylee, it depends on what the palpitations are. He needs an EKG right now so we can see if it's just something called bigeminy. And he might also, depending on his age, need to get up on a treadmill to be sure that he doesn't have any underlying coronary disease. But you can switch to Suboxone from methadone very effectively. Be sure it's a doctor that has done that, though. But that is, to me, one of the great advances of Suboxone is getting off methadone. Methadone is a prison sentence. Suboxone has its own issues, but it's not the prison sentence that methadone is. Would you agree, Randy?
I do agree. But I also know that, after long-term use of Suboxone, boy, I wouldn't wish that withdrawal on my worst enemy.
No.
It takes a little while to come off of it. You got to do it. You got to do it correctly and under a doctor's supervision. Yeah. But it's definitely better than methadone. Yeah. Methadone gets in your bones. That's.
Yeah. So methadone takes 6 months to get off of, and it's horrible. Suboxone, it's 2 lousy weeks, 2 really nasty weeks. And the best way to go through it is to taper down off the Suboxone, which is it's one of the drugs you can taper from. Most drugs you can't. I mean, imagine trying to taper from your Xanax. Can you imagine that? Doctors try that shit all the time with Xanax. It's just the worst thing to do. Yeah, I know, it's laughable. But I know exactly what you would have happened
really
to you. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But Suboxone you can taper, and you want to get down certainly below 8 milligrams, ideally below 4, before you do the cold turkey. And even if you get down to 2 or even 1 sometimes, and you go to 0, you will feel a withdrawal. You will feel it, and it's a pretty nasty couple of weeks, and you will get through it. It's not going to hurt you. It's just you get through it, and and then off you go, and then you're truly abstinent. Randy, anything else we should be talking about in terms of America for Recovery now? And you're not for profit. Do we want people to go anywhere, do anything? Stay tuned for more as we roll these programs out.
Well, I started my program because I knew there was a lot of former athletes out there just like me who were suffering in silence with that warrior mentality, and like we talked about earlier, that guilt, shame kept them from raising their hands. They thought they were the only ones out there struggling, and usually it was because they didn't know there was any resources available. So I started proathletesinrecovery.org to be that bridge, not only between the player and the NFL, but also the player and Major League Baseball. Pretty much every sport out there that has an organization that supports its former players, I work with, and I serve as that bridge between the player and resources. It's kind of crazy. Sometimes I feel like God allowed me to go through all that just so that I could do the work that I do now. I used to think football was life and death, but it's nothing compared to this, obviously. So, I'm proud of everything we've accomplished with the nonprofit, and also the book. I just finished the book. I'm going to hold it up here.
Yep.
It just released on February the 4th. It's at bestseller right now, and number 1 in 6 or 7 different categories. I'm just so proud of it. And the cool thing about the book is that the cool thing about the book is that my whole family had a piece of it. They had a part in it. They had a platform in it, and it was a healing process for the Grimes family. Nice.
So where do you? I'm always looking for great resources, and if I need not even a formal intervention, but I just need somebody to need somebody to, I look for attic whisperers in my life, people that can get through, and I suspect you're one of these people. And so if I need help, where do you kind of work? Where can where can I call?
Oh, you
what
can
kind
find
of
me
can I
at
call
my
upon you for?
website, proathletesinrecovery.org, or you can find me at White Sands Treatment Center here in Tampa, or offcenterthebook.com. If you can't find me, you're not looking very hard. I'm on all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm on all that stuff.
I'm looking right now to see if America for Recovery. Let me get their website. Hold on.
And it's Recovery for America.
Recovery for America. That's right. Recovery for America. Recovery. Sorry, everybody. For America. All right, let's get it. I think I have to put the number 4 in there to get the right thing, right? Because when I put the
yes, you do.
When I put the FOR, you get the wrong thing. There it is. Recovery for America now. Recoveryforamerica.org. So that's where we want you to go. Is to recoveryforamerica.org. And they are putting together resources to help people in need. And that's one of the biggest problems with addiction treatment. I don't think the big problem is so much stigma as resources, man. Getting resources for people in need is just incredible. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a little break, do a little business, and then Randy, I'll take some phone calls when we get back. Be right with you.
Sounds good.
Since the beginning of the pandemic, nearly 1 in 5 Americans has reported consuming an unhealthy amount of alcohol. Could be you, but only 10% of them are actually getting the help they need. Reframe is a neuroscience-based smartphone app that helps users cut back or quit drinking alcohol altogether. Using evidence-based tools, techniques, and content, Reframe guides users through a personalized program to help them reach their goals. Comprised of daily tasks, a comprehensive toolkit, a community forum, and accountability guides, Reframe is a modern, accessible, and affordable resource that can help anyone looking to reevaluate their relationship with alcohol. Reframe is backed by Harvard University and Emory University Schools of Medicine, and it is ranked the #1 alcohol reduction smartphone app worldwide with over 350,000 downloads. With Reframe, there's no stigma, just science, no labels, just support. To learn more, go to joinreframeapp.com/Dr. Drew. Use the code Dr. Drew for 25% off your first month or your annual subscription. That's at joinreframeapp.com/Dr. Drew. Let's talk about our friends at Hydralyte. I can't say enough about Hydralyte. You hear me talk about them all the time. It gets me through workouts and medical procedures and colonoscopies and COVID. It absolutely contributed to my recovery from COVID. Hydration is key to feeling healthy, and there's never been a time when that could be more important. We're in the height of cold, flu season. Every headache has got you testing for COVID. Staying hydrated can keep the questionable symptoms at bay, and there's nothing better than Hydralyte to get it done. Taking their hydration formula one step further, now there is Hydralyte Plus Immunity. It starts with their fast-absorbing electrolytes and adds a host of great ingredients. Plus, each single-serve, easy-pour drink mix contains 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C and 300 milligrams of elderberry extract. Hydralyte Plus Immunity comes in convenient, easy-pour powder sticks that rapidly dissolve in water to make a great-tasting drink that has a 75% less sugar than your typical sports drink. It uses all-natural flavors. It's gluten-free, dairy-free, caffeine-free, non-GMO, and even vegan. Hydralyte Plus Immunity is also now available in ready-to-drink bottles at the Walmart next to the pharmacy, or as always, you can find it by visiting hydralyte.com/Dr. Drew. That is HYDRALYTE.com/Dr. Drew. And be sure to use that code Dr. Drew 25 at checkout for a special discount. We'll be taking calls in just a second. I want to remind everyone about our friends at Hydralyte. It's available literally now at the checkout counter at 7-Eleven. Please take advantage. That's an excellent rehydration drink, and I've been behind those guys for a long time. Keith, what's going on?
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir. You're here with Randy Grimes.
Fabulous. Actually, it's a question about or comment about Paxlovid. Did you want to take my call later?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna put you back on hold for a second. I'll wrap up with Randy, and then I'll bring you back. We'll talk a little COVID at that point. Randy, I'm going to let you go. They clearly want to go into some COVID conversation here in this chat room, and I'm not sure I don't want to pull you through that, but I guess we should wrap with, we've been telling war stories, and we've been talking about the strange thinking of addiction and the funny things that addicts do. But why don't you give them a few minutes on the glory of getting well and recovery?
Well, and it's been awesome. The last 12 and a half years, I'm coming up on 13 soon. And, it's beyond my wildest expectations. And, my message when I go out there is that it's okay to not be okay, but you've got to raise your hand and ask for help. There's hope out there. There's help. There's resources. And there's no reason to struggle anymore. And, if you don't hear anything else tonight from me, hear that I said that it's okay to not be okay, but you got to ask for help.
Yeah, you got to run up the flag, and you got to be willing to do whatever's required, including, Randy, how much, when you crawled through those doors the last time, how tall are you? How much did you weigh?
I was probably down to about 250, from my playing weight, 290, 300.
All right, and how tall?
6'4".
So this 6'4", 250 plus man crawled in on his knees and wanted to do so, was willing to do so. He was so desperate to run up that flag. So when you are looking to recover and you start doing half measures or making excuses or having to get back to work or not listening to your treatment team or using your brain to do anything in the early part of the game, and I mean anything, for the first few weeks and preferably for the first 6 months, don't use that brain because it's under the influence of this illness and it will lead you wrong. And when you're really ready to do whatever you'll do, you will just ask people for that direction and you will do it. Big old Randy crawled through those doors and that's what he did, right?
That's right. And stay accountable and stay plugged in, stay connected.
All right, let's again, I don't know if you have full screens for all this stuff, Caleb. I hate to spring this on you, but we've got, let's see, there we've got the off center. We've got the, Randy, give me all your websites again.
ProAthletesInRecovery.org, RandyGrimesSpeaks.com. Oh, yeah, you can go to Amazon.com to find the book too. And remember, of course, Recovery for America Now, the foundation, Art and Katie over there. They're doing a great job. They're helping a lot of people. And congratulations on being on that advisory board too, Doc.
I know. When they called me, I was like, of course. I know the work they do. I know their recovery principles and their lives. I whatever I can do to help. That's sort of my thing. But it'll be a pleasure to work with you, my friend. And so hopefully we'll see each other in person soon. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate it. You bet. Randy Grimes.
God bless you.
God bless you. And thank you, everybody. Thank you for Randy.
Thank you very much.
All right, my friend. And I will go back to the phones. Let me track down Keith, who wanted to ask.
Back to COVID.
There he is. Yeah, we'll do a little COVID stuff again. COVIDville.
Nobody wanted to talk about painkillers, I guess.
I think Randy and I covered the territory pretty effectively. The good news is people kind of know it now. 15 years ago when I would tell that story, they'd be, what?
Well, we did a whole podcast, 170 episodes of This Life You Live, and it was nothing but
addiction and recovery. Yes. All right, Keith Paxlovid, here we go. How's your mom doing? Your grandma? I forget who it was. Well, Keith, you're on mute still. Your micro. There you are. Go ahead.
My dad. Sorry. You live. For review. So I'm the guy who did some unnatural acts a couple of months ago to get Paxlovid antivirals to my mother-in-law. She had COVID. There was no Paxlovid delivered to any retail pharmacies in our 1.6 million person county at that time. Thankfully, there's a lot more availability of Paxlovid these days. AP did a story yesterday about the challenges doctors are having getting Paxlovid into patients' hand and down their throats within 5 days.
I saw that.
Of onset of symptoms.
I saw that.
For those who haven't seen it, you just Google AP doctors hurdles and you'll find it right away.
And
so
it
patients
made me,
are waiting too long to see the doctor.
Well, I actually didn't read it carefully intentionally because I like the state of ignorance I'm in. So here's what I thought to myself. I thought, are they going to require a positive test to get Paxlovid? Is it really not good enough for a physician to say, look, the whole household has Omicron BA2. This guy's sick with a negative test. I'm going to get on this now. Are they going to require? I was so fearful that article was talking about requiring a positive test. And was it?
Well, actually, the emergency use authorization requires it.
Because that's what's going to create the delay.
I don't think you need to have a PCR.
No, even with the PCR, I'm telling you,
you can do a home test.
I'm telling you, the testing, for whatever reason, the testing is all over the place, and that's what's going to create the delay, and that really concerns me. Is molnupiravir the same thing?
Probably. I'm almost certain it is. So my mother-in-law did a home test. That was good enough for her doctor to prescribe it.
No, I'm sure it's good enough. My problem is I've seen a lot of Omicron, and the testing is sometimes positive for like 12 hours right at the beginning before people really know they're sick.
You have to catch it.
Exactly.
You have to catch it when it wants to be caught.
Exactly.
I know. I understand. But check this out. This is going to really make you crazy.
All right.
30 to 50% of patients who qualified for the medicine turned down the treatment.
That's insane.
And some pharmacies want to know if they can dispose of Paxlovid because not enough patients are coming in for it.
Oh, no.
Now, if that isn't a failure of public health messaging, Dr. Drew,
I don't know
what is.
At least take the molnupiravir. There was, I think it was in the same article, or maybe I saw it on the same page. A guy told his story about, hey, I took molnupiravir. I was really getting sick, and 12 hours later, I was better on molnupiravir. I thought
his name's Jeffrey Carlson.
All right, people need to hear that story.
In Minnesota.
Yeah.
And he had type 1 diabetes and heart stents, and once he got it, like he was shoveling snow the next day.
That's what he said. That's
he felt
right.
so good.
That's right. So please, everybody, we're going to go through a little Omicron surge here, and it should be a nothing if you've had your proper boosting, and if you haven't, fine, just get the molnupiravir or the Paxlovid. This should be. We are so well equipped to handle this stuff now. It should be a nothing. It should be a nothing.
Well, we're equipped with having the medicine on the shelves, but we're not equipped with patients understanding what they need to do. Okay, I'm getting the sniffles. I feel okay, I have the sniffles, but I'm high risk. Maybe I'm boosted, maybe I'm, whatever. You need to get with your doctor right away.
Yeah.
You need to get tested right away. Because that 5 days is ticking.
Yep, that's right. And by the way, there's
24 hours before you can talk to your doctor.
And I believe molnupiravir has an indication for exposure prophylaxis too. I'm not sure on that.
So if you're not vaccinated,
So take it if somebody's sick in your house. Just take the molnupiravir. Just take it.
If you're not vaccinated and you're over 65 or whatever, will it help you, or are you still SOL?
No, it can help you possibly dramatically. Now, we haven't had the widespread enough use because people have not been using it the way they should to really know for sure. But the research suggests that everybody should be kept out of the hospital if they're using these medicines properly. Everybody.
I bet the shelves are really stocked
the
too.
Bottom line.
Oh, sorry. Because we're coming down off the
No,
peak.
I'm sorry. You go ahead, Susan.
It's also
now we're going into summer and it seems to be slowing down.
Well, no. The government has finally distributed it properly and put a website together where you can actually see where you can get the medicine. And that's actually pretty good right now. And we're going up again. We're going to go up a little bit.
Yeah, but aren't we kind of on a low point right now?
Yeah, we're pretty low. We're not that low.
So when we get to a high point,
let's take advantage of the low point.
Yeah.
And get the word
Stock
out.
up.
This is what you need to do. You need to be prepared. You need to know what to do when you get the symptoms.
They should be sending, instead of COVID
Dave.
Tests, they should be sending out this drug to everybody, like to put on their shelf.
Yes, that's how I was hoping it would be when I saw the original research on this drug, but obviously it isn't going to be like that. And they're stopping paying for it now, even though they've stocked it. So now the government-funded treatment is not going to be as available as it was.
Oh yeah, there's that. Because we're worried about a war.
Well, but the point is, there's good treatments. Go do telemedicine with somebody. Do something to get proper care. People shouldn't be getting sick these days. It just shouldn't be happening. And by the way, I always said I have no problem handing out compliments for our public health system. Should they turn a put what do you call it? Put on a new whatever it is. Change their ways. They are beginning to be much more reasonable. Much more reasonable. I'm seeing explicit headlines. Yes, there's going to be an increase in BA2. Time to be vigilant, but don't panic. When before it was like, it was just like, oh my God. It's like, look at the difference in the messaging now, which is, yeah, we're telling you not to panic. They should have been doing that from the beginning. Panic doesn't help anything.
Well, they're still doing it, though.
Nothing. No.
They're still trying to get us to panic.
The press is putting some stuff on.
BBC did last week. I was watching the BBC, and it was like, oh, there's an uptick in China, and this great doctor came on, and he was very calm. He said, oh, yeah, he's really boring. And she was like, oh, what's going on over there, doc? Oh, yeah, all the 85-year-olds are in the hospital because they haven't been vaccinated and they died with like 1,000 people, and otherwise
all right,
it's fine for
let's be
everybody
super
else.
clear. This was a Hong Kong doctor. He spoke perfect English. He seemed very knowledgeable.
But he was very calm.
And the BBC anchor was trying to whip it into something. And he goes, hey, 3.5 million people have had Omicron over here. We've had 1,000 deaths. What is that, 0.0006? 1,000 deaths. And 100% of the deaths were in unvaccinated over 80. 100% unvaccinated over 80.
And then she cut him off.
And
she cut him off mid. Okay, we got to switch the channel now. It was like, oh my God.
Yeah. No, and
so I don't like the BBC anymore.
And 990 says panic is NBC. No. Their favorite word was grim. Grim milestone. We've hit a grim. Now they've taken the word grim and they moved it to the Ukraine. So now the Ukraine has grim scenes in it, and they've replaced the word grim when it comes to Omicron. And Susan pointed out to me, I believe. What is the new word, Susan?
Looming.
Looming Omicron BA2. It's looming, everybody. It's going to get you.
Whatever.
Screw these guys. These are really horrible, unethical people writing these headlines, and they're showing their face now. Can we not see it? Can we not see it? You got the public health people saying, oh my God, we panicked them. That was a terrible thing. Now they're taking a different gesture and saying, don't panic. I'm with you. I'm with you guys. If you would also jump on and tell us about Paxlovid and Molnupiravir and how to do telemedicine, I'd be completely behind you guys. But the press will not let go. We need a new word for the war. We moved grim over to the Ukraine.
That is grim.
It is grim. It's true.
That's meant to be.
But now they've got looming for Omicron. Looming problems.
But it's henny penny. The sky is falling, and then one day we're just all going to go. There's going to be something actual that we should worry about, and we're just going to say we don't believe you.
I never thought I'd be so happy to hear the reference henny penny. I'm writing it down.
Henny penny. The sky is falling.
Henny penny.
Remember that?
Well, if you're of a certain age, you do remember it. But I think
it's probably politically incorrect now, right?
I don't even know. But
we should probably see if we can get the book. Probably not.
Absolutely a pertinent name to bring up, because Henny Penny is who they think they've been talking to, and let's not be Henny. And how does Henny Penny respond when Chicken Little comes up to her and says the sky's falling? Does she dismiss him?
No, they believe it at first, and then later she comes back, and then it's a wolf and it eats everybody.
So that's what Susan's worried about, is that we're Henny Penny, and next time we actually have a real problem, we're not going to listen. Probably already the damage has been done.
With the side characters, Goosey Poosey and Turkey Lurkey.
Turkey Lurkey.
Somebody said if you like Biden, you're born closer to Lincoln's presidency than Biden's presidency. You've heard of Henny Penny. Yeah, I'm old.
Diane.
That was a good book.
Hi, Diane.
Hello.
Hey
Hi,
there.
Dr. Drew.
Hi, Diane.
I would love to share my experience with the antivirals.
Please.
I talked to you guys last week just briefly that I was exposed to my niece who had a positive COVID test.
I remember.
And sure enough, I was symptomatic the day after I talked to you guys. So I immediately went and got a PCR and I was positive.
Good.
And so I called my doctor, actually before I got sick, and I said, could I please get some Molnupiravir or Paxlovid? And she just would not call it in. And so it was just so frustrating. to try to get the medicine, and I knew it was available.
Even after you got sick, they wouldn't call it in?
No, I mean, I really had
Why?
to. It was unbelievable, Dr. Drew. And so I had to, we've got a really good
so weird
teaching hospital here at the Med Center. And
good.
So the person that saw me was a physician assistant. And I said, are you able to at least try to get this for me? Because my primary care isn't on board. And but it took me, today's day 5, and I finally got it.
Oh my God. Are you doing okay?
I know. Yeah, my fever's gone. I still have a cough and
if I remember, you were diabetic also. Is that right?
Not diabetic, but I've got some dysautonomia. Fibromyalgia, sinus node dysfunction. Yeah.
Right. And so as you know, I mean, you can kind of cruise along and then fall off the cliff, after 10 days or something. So by all means, I would still take the antiviral.
Still start taking. Yeah, I was going to ask you.
I would. If I were you, I would. I mean, the fact that it took them 5 days to get it for you just is disgusting.
I know it is.
But I would.
I hope that, what angers me about this is I know that other people have to be having the same problem because, she said, well, you're on the cusp of, the health issues, but she goes, this is emergency use authorization for immunocompromised and you don't fall in the category.
That's not true. First of all, it's not true. And it's not just immunocompromised, but risk category. If you're somebody who's at risk of progression, which you are, and again, that's the physician's call. I mean, if your doctor wanted to say, I don't believe you're at risk of progression, that's one thing. But sure. But to say you don't actually qualify just because, that's insane. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Make sure you use lots of steam and a decongestant when you sleep at night. Because
good idea.
It's so hard to sleep because you'll get so much phlegm. You'll be coughing for like 3 weeks.
Oh yeah,
and it's just I don't know if you remember when we had COVID. It was like every other word was a cough.
Yeah. I remember.
Nobody complained, but we feel for you. It's tough, but that's the worst thing though. Is you just have to deal with a cough.
Well, no, there are way worse things than COVID. But thankfully, that's mostly the worst thing.
That's the worst thing I had to deal with.
Yeah, that's mostly if you've been boosted and you're taking Paxlovid. That's about as bad as it gets.
But I don't know. I think that cough is just, that's how you know if somebody has it.
No, you know what it is? It's back pain. If they have if they have that incredible back pain
at the beginning,
right?
At the beginning, then you know
it's so true.
Then you know it.
I did not know about that, Drew, until you said that, because I was not aware I had really bad back pain in the 2 or 3 days leading up to before I even got the test, because I just thought, oh, I'm tired. Yeah. Nobody has ever told me that until you said that on the show, and that was the first sign. Was bad back
and
pain.
The fatigue is an early sign too. When I had the alpha, I was doing a nightly broadcast on local television here, and I remember I got out of my car. I parked in an underground parking structure. I got out of my car and I thought, I had this very strange thought, like, I have to lie down on the cement. I have to lie down in the parking lot right now. It was like this, what is that?
You'll need a few naps.
Then it kind of went away.
Before you're all in the next couple of weeks.
Well, again,
I'm so tired.
Let's be fair. The really dreadful part about COVID is the cytokine activation, the endothelial phenomenon, which is clotting phenomenon. This is the dreadful part of COVID. And if you get the viral stuff adequately suppressed, it looks like you're at much, much, much lower risk of going on to these other dreadful things. So good. So that's why I would say for John, Diane, thanks for the call.
Okay.
Feel better.
Feel better. Yeah. Let us know how you're doing. All right. And then we will take one more. Shoot, I'm having trouble.
I just laugh about how you got that horrible laryngitis, and we kept taking. You kept taking the PCR, and I was like, or the rapid test, and we had old ones, and I was like, well, maybe these don't work. And then you're like, no, this is just a cold. This is just a cold. Mm-hmm. 3 days later, you coughed on us, and we all got it. So it was like, it's a sneaky one because you didn't believe you had it.
It was
gave it to everybody else.
Nothing. It was so nothing compared to the original. The alpha.
But you couldn't even talk.
It was a nasty bronchitis.
Did you have
nasty laryngitis?
Did you have lower back pain though?
Not that I recall. Not like that first time.
I remember
having
a little lower back pain on the plane, and I was like,
great. I mean, Caleb, was yours like really nasty? Mine was. Just,
and I didn't think that it was COVID at all simply because I never had any breathing issues from start to finish, no breathing issues. I felt like it was odd that everything smelled like there were pennies under my nose, like a metallic smell. Whenever I laid down, I felt like I was being like slightly waterboarded, like I was just slightly drowning, like in my nose, but like coughing later on, no breathing issues. But that back pain, it just, and
a lot of yellow guck in my nose.
Yeah,
and coughing it up right away.
Nosebleeds.
Usually I'll get a sinus infection like a week later. It came right out. I was like,
and
get me a
although
Z-Pack.
Most people with Omicron who were vaccinated and particularly boosted had similar symptoms to what we're talking about here. I was J&J and previous infection, so I had hybrid immunity. Susan was boosted, but I saw people that had not been vaccinated at all, young, have horrible problems with Omicron, including pulmonary emboli and near respiratory failure and desaturation and all the good stuff. It can do it. Make no mistake about it.
My
Omicron
brain's a little different since then too. Like I forget to do stuff. Like I've noticed, like people are like, "Oh, did you do this?" And I was like, "Oh shit, I forgot to do that. Like, how did that happen?"
Yeah.
So I feel like that's happened.
Yeah, I understand
probably
that. Believe me, I understand.
Lost
I had that for months.
last bit of memory that I had.
I had that for months. All right.
But I just blame it on being old, anyways. So.
Josh, what's going on?
Hey, Dr. Drew.
Hey, man.
I heard you mention the word the term secondary gain a couple times, and you just mentioned it, and I've sort of recorded it in my brain, and then I've thought about it. I wanted to kind of ask you about that, and I know it's a resistance to, or I'll just give you my wrong interpretation of it.
Of what secondary gain means.
Yeah. So to me, secondary gain would mean that I'm sort of using physical or mostly mental issues to try to get out of doing something or not working or not being contributing or whatever.
Yeah, something about your illness or its treatment or what you're doing with your illness is rewarding in some fashion. It's either rewarding in the sense that you don't have to go to work and you don't really want to, or it's rewarding in that you get disability payments, or it's rewarding you don't have to go into a work environment you don't want to go into, or it's rewarding because your wife starts being very caretaking. There's all kinds of secondary gains people get from all kinds of illnesses. It's just inherent in being sick that there can be secondary gains. Let me try to remember. I did a shoot, I wonder if I still have my slideshow. I did a comprehensive review of all the different secondary gains out there, and some of them were bizarre. I can't.
And some of it's unconscious, right?
Oh yeah. A lot of it is. It's not malingering. Malingering, it does have secondary gains, but it is often the patient is not aware of it. That's typically the case. Yeah.
So, for example, someone could say, "Okay, well, I'm depressed, and so I'm not going to work, and I don't want to get better from my depression, because if I get better from my depression, it means I have to go to work. Right. And so I'm unconsciously staying sick to avoid work."
It's not quite just so like that, but let's at least say you're getting a gain that you like from not working, and you're not really aware of that. You just know you're not. You're just kind of. It's why people go, why didn't you? People that like work go, why are you staying home? Don't just drive you crazy. You're staying home all day. But if you like it, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. But sometimes that reward can be a lot bigger than you realize, and that's when it really becomes problematic.
Yeah, and I feel like it's in narcissism. I think it's a big trait of narcissism. I mean, people look at, I was just hearing a lecture where the psychoanalyst was looking at secondary gain, say from not working, and also antisocial behavior, because antisocial behavior sort of gives the narcissist almost like a treatment, kind of, if he's stealing little things or if he's lying or whatever these antisocial kind of qualities, they sort of like soothe the narcissist in a way that therapy would. And that's why people who have secondary gain or who are antisocial can't be treated, really. They can't actually be helped because they don't want to be helped, in a sense. It's almost like addiction.
Again, you're stating it as though it were just so, But what you're saying is correct. Okay, it's a little soupier than that. It's it's not quite just so, but
unconscious. It's unconscious.
It's like it's a force that's working against you getting better. I kind of think about it that way.
And it's not conscious. We're not aware of it.
Typically unconscious. Though sometimes it can be manipulative and overt. I mean, it can be, but oftentimes it's unconscious. And were you not aware that existed? Is that a new concept for you?
No, but I've heard it and I've thought about it. I thought it was one of the best things I've ever heard about narcissism. And then I think I heard it on the Dr. Drew and Adam show. And then I heard it once. You just say it really offhandedly.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring it up to you because for me, it's like, it's everything. Because if I find myself kind of like, what's really going on with you? Are you, come on, let's go. You know what I mean? It's almost like that secondary game.
Yeah, no, you have to, it's hard to tease it out too, because you oftentimes don't want to see it, don't want to look at it because you don't want to let it go. That's kind of like addiction thinking, but it is an important concept. I'm just, it's not strictly narcissists that get it, that have secondary gain, but though narcissists are often very defended, so they may not be willing to look at it quite the way a non-narcissist would. And it operates in all of us, to be fair, but it's not a quid pro. It's not a QED kind of thing. In other words, just because you have secondary gain, it doesn't mean you're not going to get better, or just doesn't mean because you don't want to go to work, you're really gratified by that. You may have conflicted feelings about it also. All right, everybody, thank you for hanging around today. Caleb, thank you for producing the show. Sorry I was a couple minutes late. We've got a lot of great guests coming up, including Matt Ridley, I believe, tomorrow at 3 o'clock. We'll be at 3 o'clock across the week through Friday. Is it Greg Grunberg coming in this Friday? Is that right? No, it's Evie Pomporis.
He had to move,
next week.
Evie, I think, had to move.
And then next week, too? We're moving everybody around all the time.
Yeah. We can do Ask Dr. Drew, or guest, or I reached out to Scott.
Hang on a second. I'm also Art Kleinschmidt, who'd been on the show before.
Listen, you don't need to produce right now.
Hang on. He wants me to remember that he has a blog out on MAT and MOUD, so medically assisted treatment. It's where is it? Look for it on, I guess, for Recovery for America Now. It's Clinical Perspective, the Need for Treatment, MOUD.
There's a funny conversation going on over at Twitch.
At Twitch? What are they talking about?
Something about your butthole.
My butt. Well, they're talking about how I make fun of women saying that word. and women have an uncanny way of leaving the T's out of that word. Right?
Yeah.
Is that you too?
Somebody said I pegged you or something. No. I don't know. They're all...
They're just looking for an opportunity to use that word is all there is.
Yeah.
So, there it is. Your daddy says hi is saying it properly. We're saying it the way I was making fun. So your mom's house, Dr. After Dark, is a podcast that's sort of like Loveline a little bit. And people call in with these voice messages and we answer emails, all the confusing questions that particularly people like under the age of 40 have. And we have a great community with a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah, check out the latest interview with Nadav. It was really good on After Dark. Yeah, it was fine. And then he said nice things about me. And then no, I'm kidding. Also the one that I was on the week before. If you haven't heard it.
And there's one coming for Susan that's gonna rock the world. I'm not going to say any more than that.
I'm a little nervous.
I think it's probably a month out.
I'm a little nervous.
So we'll see. I'll get you back on real quick when we go out to Austin next time.
Yeah. So I'm not going to be able to go unless I can change my hair appointment. She had to do it the day you're flying, but I'm going to try to beg her to do it that Tuesday.
All right, we'll see.
Nadav saw me fly in the air and hit the ground, hit the dirt, and
oh yeah,
in Austin.
And then she did it again in New Orleans. He didn't see that one, but Drodo said it's better than Love Bind because it sometimes includes Susan.
Oh, that's so nice.
And I would agree with that.
Thank you, Drodo.
I would agree with that,
my friend.
Yes. All right. So let's wrap everything up. We'll see you tomorrow at there it is. There's Drodo's comment, and we will see you all tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
You just recently saw the live show with Susan, right?
Yeah.
And one of your favorite parts was the Chris bit, right?
Yes.
So what happened was that he's just started escalating all these bits to the point where he's just like, oh yeah, they should be topless in this. I mean, Chris, could you run me through? Because I remember I was seeing things happen where I'm like, I did not pep talk him to doing this.
Chris is a
he gives. He's a
player.
I'm a performer. I give. Yeah.
Yeah. Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.